Hello everybody, Angela here from TheJoyHut, and I hope that you're having an amazing day. Today I wanted to actually share with you, as a mind, body and energy coach, some tips around how utilizing our life force energy, which is the energy that is around us, often referred to as chi, and how that can actually lead to even better health and happiness for our mind, our body and our emotional well-being. So, what we actually do really does matter, and when we do it actually matters as well. So, it's not just about what we're putting into our body, but also what we do with our time and the decisions that we make around that. So, the state of our flow, which is the state of our chi or the life force energy that's flowing around us, really can strengthen or it can really weaken the functioning of the organs. And so, if the organs are not functioning so well, then what we find is the state of our health and our emotional well being is not as optimal either. So, today I really want to share how you can start to implement a couple of things into your life. And I mean, I could talk about this stuff forever, but I just wanted to share a few quick tips on how you can make healthier decisions, how you can be happier, and just really hone in on the importance of how our emotions play a big role in how our body functions as well. So if we are toxic or deficient in certain emotions, it can really influence how the life force energy flows through our body and whether our organs have enough of what they need in order to be able to work at their optimal level. So I want to just delve into that a little bit today. And for those of you who do not know me, as I said, my name is Angela and I'm from TheJoyHut. And I work with people who are usually creatives or nurturers or even the rebels in life and the rainbow sheeps of the community that really want to make a difference, and they want to bring their visions and their dreams to life, but maybe they have a little bit of an emotional or psychological block in making the changes that they need to make in order to help that to become a reality for them. So I support people in that arena so that they can really move through making those changes really safely, so that utilizing mind and body and energy techniques is all a part of that, where we use strategies like emotional freedom techniques is one example, where it helps to regulate the nervous system and reduce the stress that you've got going on when you're trying to make changes in your life. And so that's basically how I serve the community, and I show people how to do that on a daily basis with the simple decisions that they do make in life, so that they're not really sacrificing themselves for those that they care about, but they're also prioritizing their number one asset, which is you, and not sacrificing the devotion to others and being able to be there for them as well. So part of that is to really understand how energy does flow through us, and how, when we bring that in through often what is commonly referred to as our chakras, and then how that is super highwayed throughout our system through the primovascular system, which is what we call the meridian system commonly. So it's actually a physical system that has been shown to exist. So recently there's been evidence to suggest, and photographic evidence to suggest, that this primovascular system does exist. And so the use of energy and what we choose to do with our energy and how we build that energy over the span of our 24-hour period is becoming more and more important and more in the mainstream field. Acupuncturists know about this, so a lot of traditional Chinese medicine really has been working in this area for centuries now, and Western world is catching up with it more and more, which is really exciting. And one of the techniques that I do use as well within my coaching and my practitioner business is the emotional freedom techniques as well. So that is actually not only working on your cognitive mental aspect of what's going on for you and your emotions, but also it works on that primovascular system, and it helps the impulses to be sent through the body more smoothly. And so it helps that chi, it helps that life force energy. So I'm going to be talking a little bit today about how you can actually get that chi flowing and how that can really impact your emotional health. So, to start with, I want to just recognize the fact that we have, what we'd call a 24-hour period. And usually within that 24-hour period, if you were to break it into segments of 2 hours over that time, all of our organs have a particular time where they've got more energy flowing to them naturally, and it's the time where, depending on what we do, it helps them to function optimally. So, I want to go through, how it's important to wake up at a certain time so that it's impacting your immune system in a positive way. And also how it's really important to be asleep by certain times of the evening, because that also helps you to build your energy stores, build your blood stores for even things like your menstruation, and even menopausal, women go through this as well. So, when we look at the different times of the day and we look at some of the symptoms we might also be experiencing, such as waking up between the hours, for example, 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., it could be an indicator that you've got stuff going on in the liver, associated organ, with the emotions of things like anger, frustration, irritation, and resentment. So if you've got this long held resentment, then, or this anger that is not settling, and you don't have strategies to be able to deal with the emotional side of things, you are also affecting your flow of your life force energy through your body, and therefore affecting the organ that's associated with the toxicity of that particular emotion, such as anger, which is the liver. And so many of you may or may not know that this is a correlation that has been shown, that organs do have an impact on how they work depending on the emotional state. And what you need to become aware of is that all of our decisions are emotionally driven anyway. And so if we're deciding to do certain things at certain times of the day, it's often based on how we're feeling. So if we're feeling really sluggish and we're feeling really low, then you might find that you go for certain foods, which, you're trying to pick up your energy by having those foods. But often we work back the front, and we're having these kind of foods at the end of the day, and we should be having those kind of foods more at the beginning of the day. And whether you're fasting or intermediate fasting or anything like that, is you still need to flow with the yang and the yin cycle of that 24-hour period. So, for example, waking up between the hours of 5 and 7 a.m. is absolutely ideal. But what you do when you wake up is super important too. So this is the area where it's the chi, is in the large intestines. And so if you're finding that, you're thinking about what happened yesterday and you're waking up worrying, and then you jump out of bed, you check your emails, you get into social media, you don't give yourself time to come back into your body, and you don't give yourself time to transform the energy of yesterday, then you often find that it's more likely as well that you'll have heightened emotions of guilt and regret throughout your day, because you're thinking about what's not happening now, you're thinking about the past, and you're having a hard time to actually let go of that, which then puts a lot of stress on your body. It puts a lot of stress on your large intestine. You may not be able to digest things well, and you might find that you're experiencing symptoms like constipation, you're experiencing skin rashes, you're experiencing the emotional feeling of being stuck. So that's sort of an indicator of, this is where things can be at for a lot of people, which at that time of the day, you want to make sure that you're actually just slowly coming into now. So you want to rise, you want to drink water, particularly lemon water, because as we know, that gets the digestive system moving and prepares the body for food later on. You want to make sure that you're doing your movement and your stretching and any form of exercise, perhaps during that time as well, because the exercise and the movement also helps to really break down the energy of yesterday, and it helps to break down any of the emotions that we've carried over that haven't been integrated, so to speak, throughout our sleep period. And maybe that is because our sleeping isn't the best either, and that can be all associated with what we're doing with our chi cycle. So, in summary, at the end of the day, what we're looking at is in the morning, you're waking up, you're coming into your world. And as you're coming into your world, you want to be gentle, you want to be kind with yourself, you want to do those gentle movements and the stretches and really just take some time, turn off the devices, don't jump on them straight away, and really come back into your body. Then we're moving into more of a yang part of the day. So between, 7 a.m. and around about, 12, 1 p.m., sorry, we're really looking at that period of time being yang, meaning it's more active. It's more the time to actually, work a little bit harder, think about things a bit more, do a lot of your communications around those times as well. So that yang energy is that build up of that day, that build up of that life force energy. And technically, when it comes from a perspective of utilizing the 24-hour chi cycle as best that you can, if you've done really well the day before, you won't have any problems with doing what you need to do within that period of time and putting a lot of energy into your morning. But if you're finding that there's been a period of time where you haven't followed your natural cycle of universal energy and you haven't done things that help you to be able to really get that flow going, then what you find is that you can wake up really sluggish and you can be struggling and really need that, caffeine hit for you to be able to feel like, you've got some kind of form of energy. So when we're looking at, if we're not doing any fasting, we're not doing any intermediate fasting, if you were looking at things like what's the best time to have your breakfast, that would be within that stomach period, which is that 7 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock in the morning period. So if you can eat during that time and eat long chained carbohydrates, so these are the things like porridge and the quinoas and all of that, where you want to really get a high amount of long chained foods so that over the period of the day, you're actually utilizing that energy that's a slow release rather than the quick fix of all the, sugars and different things that you can get in the cereal packets and things like that too. So it's obviously a really great way to also start with the sugars that are in fruits as well, because they do release the energy slowly. And when you're looking at being in that period between 7 and 9 o'clock in the morning, you're looking at the energy of the stomach being at its optimal. So the chi's kind of hanging around in the stomach there, ready to be used. And when it's ready to be used, this is where you're doing a lot of your development and you're doing a lot of what it is through the day that helps you to actually achieve what it is that you want as an intention for that day. So some of the things that you can do during that stomach period is to really continue to arrive home, have a really healthy, nourishing breakfast that's going to give you the energy. Really looking at becoming real with yourself and working out what it is that you're going to be putting your focus into for that day. And what I find over time of working with clients, particularly one-on-one, is that a lot of symptoms such as reflux and ulcers and things like that physically in the body can really be related to what we do and how we treat ourselves during that stomach meridian period between 7 and 9 o'clock in the morning, and the emotions that are associated with that. So if somebody is very disappointed about what is happening in their life, if they're feeling really depressed and down, this emotional toxicity can really impact how the chi is flowing into the stomach as well. So you want to look at ways that you can really help yourself to be in the moment during that morning period before you get into a lot of your meetings, a lot of your business stuff. That's a time where a lot of people are trying to get the kids ready to go to school, but you want to do it where you're connecting with yourself and you're connecting with each other rather than go, push, let's jump in the car and we've got to get there on time. You'll create a lot of stress in that period if you are pushing too hard. You want to come into that gently. So once we hit that 9 o'clock, this is when, okay, now it's time to take action. This is the time that we're in the spleen. So when the chi's in the spleen, between 9 and 11 a.m., this is where you want to schedule most of your meetings. I find that when I'm, seeing one-on-one clients, I really intentionally attempt to schedule my one-on-ones and important meetings during that 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the morning. And I find that when I'm feeling really good about myself, when I'm feeling really good about my future, and there's not much worry going on, that I've got a lot of energy during this time and I'm really present. Because worry is an emotion that can really affect the spleen chi. So I want you to think about the emotions that you do experience on a regular basis. So if you have things like a lot of worry, if you have patterns of anxiety, these are not just emotions that, we can shove down and we can try to ignore and try and just push through. These emotions, if they're becoming toxic within our physical body, because emotions are energy, then we find that it's really impacting how the life force flows through. And then how the life force flows through is going to affect the functioning of each organ. So worry really does put pressure on the spleen. Now, if you find that you've had your breakfast or you've been doing the fasting in that period of time of the stomach, and now you're a little bit, wanting more support when it comes to foods, things like dates, things like cinnamon, things like a warm cup of tea rather than a stimulating coffee is something that's a really great thing to have around that time. So just food for thought there when it comes to the spleen between 9 and 11. And when you're looking at some of the symptoms that can tell you as to whether your spleen is functioning really well or not, is often we have those sweet cravings. And this is where having a date can really help to build the chi within the spleen. Because dates really satisfy those sweet cravings. I know that if I've had some sweet cravings in the past, all it takes is a medjool date and I'm feeling, like my craving has been completely satisfied. So it helps to activate the energy flow through that spleen. Plus working on the emotions of any worry that I have for the remaining of the day or the week, and utilizing things such as EFT tapping is something that really helps to regulate the nervous system so that the cravings do go down as well and we don't end up emotionally eating during that time. And so bloating is another thing that can really indicate if you find that you have a meal and then you bloat around that spleen time. It can be an indicator that your spleen is, not at the optimal functioning level. So these little things are really, great insights to have so that you become aware of the natural flow of what, we are made to do at certain times of the day. And if you feel like you're pushing a boulder up a hill, then often it's because you're trying to do things in the opposite direction. You're trying to work hard for too much time of the day, or you're still going into the evening and you're still, on the computer, or you're working really hard and you're pushing, and you're not giving yourself enough yang time in the morning and not enough yin time in the afternoon and as the day goes on. So I won't go into each and every aspect of the chi cycle, because it's something that you can delve really deep into. And if anybody does want any more advice around that, I work very holistically, and so one way to start is just to kind of look at the chi cycle and choose one or two things that you want to start implementing throughout your 24-hour period, and not trying to do it all at once, because it's going to feel really challenging if you try and do too much at once. And then, for the emotional side of things, making sure that you have some emotional strategies in place to help regulate your nervous system and relieve stress throughout your day, and really hone in on the emotions that you do feel on a regular basis. And that's where, I come in and help clients to be able to do that. So do reach out. I will have also at the end of this video, I will have a link where I'm offering a special 45-minute call where we can actually go in and clear some of the toxic emotions that you might be experiencing, or figuring out what it is that the blocks are, and come up with some clarity and strategy around, you know, some of the first steps that you need to take in order to be able to make sure that you're working from more of a holistic point of view, utilizing the chi flow, working with your emotions, your mental capacity, and also your physical choices that you're making, but also remembering that all of our choices we make are really emotionally driven. So this is where those emotions are really important to harness and to work with rather than against, and to really become aware of what's going on for you on that level. Now, the couple of areas that I really do want to focus on before I let you get on with your day is the impact that things such as anger and fear can have, because anger and fear are really two big emotions that most of us feel. Now, if you find that you're waking up at 1 to 3 a.m. in the morning, then often it can be because there's something going on with the liver, because the flow of the life force energy really is, in most of it is in the liver at that time. And there are many people, and I used to be one of these, that used to wake up between that 1 and 3 a.m. Just suddenly, that's it, right? And it wasn't until I really worked on some long-term resentment, long-term anger that I didn't even realize I had in the beginning, but became aware of, and then did something about that, was that I actually helped my liver to be able to function better, and I wasn't waking up. So our sleep cycles can be really impacted by our emotional state. And the other thing is that you may notice is, if you don't mind a wine or a drink every now and then, the sugar hit's going to hit you when it's in liver time. So I don't know if you've ever experienced like me, but in the past when I used to go out and I'd have a few drinks at night time and then I'd come home, I would fall asleep and sleep solidly, but then come 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would just wake up like that, and I'd be wide awake, and there was no way I would be able to go back to sleep until after 3 a.m. And then I would wake up at whatever time in the morning I had to wake up by, and I was really struggling with my energy. And so a lot of the things like alcohol can put the stress on the liver. And then when you're putting the stress on the liver, and you've got the emotions of anger and resentment and irritation and frustration and things like that going on, it's a double whammy, and your liver really struggles. And so, yes, we can regenerate the liver within 90 days. However, we also want to make sure that we're looking at what other things we're doing to it to create toxicity, and what are the things that we need to do to build up our chi so that it's in the liver at the right time, it's functioning optimally, and we're not cutting it off and making the liver work harder, because that's going to impact what it physically does to the cells in there and how that functions. So that's a really a big one I wanted to point out, because most people that I have seen, and including myself, have had some form of a liver issue where it has been that they're waking up during that period of time. And so when we're looking at other things that are important as well, and when we, as I said, when we're waking up in the morning, if we've done what we need to do and we're waking up between, you can wake up a little bit earlier than 5 o'clock if you want to. It's not going to really impact you. But if you're waking up, say, between like 4 and 7 o'clock in the morning, you're doing pretty well when it comes to helping your immunity. Now, the other thing that really does play a big part on the immune system, the circulatory system, the way that our body functions, even emotionally, is fear. Now, fear is a big one, because we all have goals, we all have things that we haven't done before, we all have unknown periods of our life, and we stress about stuff that hasn't even happened yet. So if we're finding that we don't have a way to manage our fear, and phobias can be part of this as well, the fear can really impact the flow of the life force energy into the kidneys. Now, when it comes to symptoms that can tell you that there's issues within the kidneys, often it can be through back pain, lower back pain in particular. So if you're finding that you're waking up maybe even finding that you're experiencing, lower back pain at the end of the day between the hours of 5 p.m. and 7 p.m., which is kidney meridian time, then what we actually can find is that there can be something going on within the kidney. Now, in order to, rectify that, what we want to do around that 5 to 7 p.m. time is we want to actually start to switch off. And most of us, are still working at 5:30 or wrapping it up around then, but we want to start slowing down and wrapping things up a little earlier if possible, where we can choose to start to really go on cruise control from about 3 p.m. onwards, because from about that time, from about 1 or 2 or 3, we're starting to want to get into the yin cycle. So we want to get into that slowing down. We want to get into that cruise control. We want to ride the wave, of the chi, so to speak. And what we find is that we actually strengthen and we build the chi for the next day when we give ourselves the opportunity to do that. So when I first started utilizing the chi cycle, it was super hard in the beginning, I must say, because it felt like I was pushing against what I'd been doing for so long. And when you do it for about, I would say, a week or so, it took me to really get in the flow and start to feel that I was cruising and riding the wave of it. But you've got to stick with it. It's just like anything, you've got to retrain the brain, you've got to retrain your patterns, your habits, you've got to retrain your thoughts around it, and you've got to retrain your emotions and how to utilize those to really help yourself to feel healthier and happier. And it took about 7 days or so, I'd say, to be able to get used to that. And then backing that and supporting it with really nutritional whole foods and lots and lots of water as well, and making sure that the balance between salt and water is really good. All of that comes together, and it helps us as a being that is utilizing everything from a holistic perspective. And so when we're going into the switching off time, we're acknowledging our strengths. We're utilizing, the laughter and the fun times that we can have. So often, scheduling meetings more in the morning and doing most of the stuff in the morning in the yang time, and then having some more social interaction in that period between, 3 and 5 to 7 at night time, you're finding that you're starting to come home. You're starting to really feel safe and nurtured, and you're starting to be more and more creative and really just winding down and being yourself. And so you want to make sure that you've got time for that as well. So things like, those little tweaks that we can do throughout our day with what we choose to do with our time are also going to impact how we feel. So we need to look at the feelings that we're actually experiencing, regularly, working on those, but also looking at the things that we can choose to do throughout the day and what we put into our body, the thoughts that we have, the decisions we make around what we choose to do with that time period, that will also impact how we feel. And so coming in at all different directions, but doing it gently and doing it with, 1 or 2 steps per week at a time that you want to change, will help gradually build that strength within you. So I hope that that makes sense. So obviously our sleep impacts our mental health as well, and we want to really look at being in bed between that 9 to 11. I mean, I'm even earlier than that because, I find that I need a little bit of extra sleep, and everybody is different. But being in that period of time between 9 and 11 p.m. where you are actually going to bed and you want to be asleep before that 11 p.m. Because when we're in that sort of, passage into unconsciousness, we set ourselves up where we can actually really work with switching off and kind of like, the universe taking over to integrate a lot of the energy from the day that we've had. And so we can build overnight to reset our nervous system, to reset our body clock, and to wake up afresh and to be able to start again, slowly coming out of yin, going into yang, and then back into yin again by the end of the day. And so the gallbladder really kicks in around the 11 p.m. Time frame. And If you're finding that, you've got things going on like a bit of poor judgment issues, for example, or really hard time making decisions, or even not digesting those fats well, and you're getting pain in the gallbladder area, then maybe there's something going on within that particular energy of the gallbladder. And so things like helplessness, things like despair. So if you're feeling like, um, life's not going the way that you want it to go and there's nothing you can do about it, that's something that you really need to look at, that helps the gallbladder to excrete the right amount of bile to be able to help you digest the fats, but also help you to feel good enough to make the decisions you need to make clearly without making poor decisions for yourself that lead to poor judgments down the track. And so when we're in that good decision making period, we're in that, sleeping by 11 p.m., we're building the energy stores for the next day, our self esteem is naturally there, our confidence is better. And by the time we get to 1 and 3 a.m., we've already worked with the gallbladder. We haven't had our drink late at night. We've had that earlier if we want one at, say, 5 p.m. In our socializing, coming down period and cruise control period. And we've done everything that we need to do more in the yang side of it, where we've worked really well and we've, taken action during that time. So by the time we get to 1 and 3 a.m., we're cruising through and we're sleeping through because our liver's functioning better. So all of these, this flow of this energy really does impact each of the segments of what's happening next, and what's coming before that impacts the organs and how they're gonna function as well. And so then you're in rest, digest, recovery period. So the liver period is really that recovery. So if you're finding that you've been unwell, or you've had something going on where you really need to just give yourself that time to really recover, this is that healing period that when you're asleep, a lot can be done within that 2-hour period because the liver's functioning well and you're not sitting there festering with anger and resentment and frustrations, because you've been dealing with your emotions throughout the day as well. Now, when you're asleep in that period of time, that also, for the women out there, it really helps you to be able to keep those energy stores and build the blood that you need for menstruation. So if you're finding that you have irregular periods, or you've got chronic fatigue going on, or you've got a lot of headaches, check out to see what you can do within your liver meridian period time. Check out what's happening with the emotions around it. Do you have any anger? Is there anything really, annoying you? Is there anything irritating you that you haven't quite dealt with yet? Is there things going on, in your life where you have been worrying, where you have been fearful, where you have been disappointed and feeling regretful or guilty for something, that by the time that the energy gets into the liver, you start to get really annoyed about that and really angry because it feels like you're in this vicious cycle. So it's really important to set up your recovery period. So by the time you move into that 3 to 5 a.m., which is the lung period, you don't have the sadness, you don't have the grief around what's going on in your life, and you feel like you have all the resources it takes to be able to deal with it if there is something happening for you. So the lungs help the chi to actually move through the entire body. And this is where breath is really important. It can build the chi, it can move the chi. So you want to find, when you wake up, you want to start with your breath. So take some nice deep breaths and really come into your yin yang time, where you're coming out of yin, you're going into yang after you have your brekkie and everything like that. But you're really utilizing that, okay, well, I am transforming, I'm starting to balance, I'm starting to develop my next day, when you wake up and you start to breathe, right? And well, you're breathing through the night, but starting to breathe a little bit deeper. So you're consciously breathing. So you want to make sure that you're embodying, your sleep, you're embodying those dreams that you have, and you're really taking care of yourself during that time. Now, if you're experiencing symptoms like any kind of wheeze, any kind of coughing, any kind of asthma, and if you get sick really easily, it can be because there's stuff going on in the lungs. So take a look at what is it that you may or may not be grieving or feeling sad about in your life right now. Are you, taking deep breaths regularly throughout the day to help move your lungs, which help move the chi? Are you embracing, embodying all of your dreams and acting in ways to be able to help them to come to fruition? What visions do you have? Do you feel like you're on purpose with that? And are you utilizing your time where you've got, the developmental time and the refining process happening in that young period between the hours of, say, 7 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where you're really in your yang? So all of these combinations of everything that makes us up is super, super important. And I guess I wanted to really hone in on when you're working with your primovascular system, which is your meridians, you are, and you're working on your emotions by utilizing things such as EFT tapping, where it helps you to really get the strategies in place to be able to feel like you're handling your emotions throughout the day. You're working on your organs at the same time, and like obviously providing it, as I've mentioned, with the nutrients and everything that you need to be able to support your organs. You're helping it a lot without realizing it by what you choose to do and how you feel during your day. So you can boost your health, you can boost your happiness by utilizing this chi cycle. So it's time to really just, I guess, realign that rhythm that you've got, that is very innate, that the ancients knew about, they still know about, and they're trying to educate us around that. And really supporting your emotional health from this angle is quite important for you. So everything, as I mentioned, that we decide to do, and our relationships and how we respond to stress, all comes from our emotional state. So if you're finding that you're triggered, really go there and look at, even when during the day do you feel emotional, and what would you call that emotion? Look at, from everything that you are from a holistic perspective. Start one thing that you can do on a daily basis and get used to that to really work with the chi cycle. So you might choose to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you might be used to waking up at 6. Get up a little bit earlier and, stretch and move your body, and start to really rise in a way that you transform. Drink some water first before you have anything, and throw a bit of lemon juice in there to help the bowel out, Let go of the day before by going to bed, feeling like you've got gratitude for your day. So start with these little things, and if you do need any support in that, by all means, click on that link that I've got in the description there as well, where you can actually get one of the very few spots that I have available for a 45-minute special call with me, to be able to really gain that clarity around what you need specifically, how you can work with the chi cycle, and start to apply the strategies that are going to help you. Because I've seen it where it only can be one or two things that are tweaked in somebody's day that makes a massive difference. And the consistency of utilizing this cycle, you're going to sleep better, you're going to feel healthier, you're going to be happier. And then, of course, because of all of that, you're going to make better decisions, you're going to have better relationships, you're going to feel like you're on purpose, and you're going to be flowing with the universal life force energy that we have available to us every single 24-hour day. So I hope that you got something out of today, and if you've got any questions or you've got any comments, please do reach out, comment below, and I really look forward to hearing about how you've tweaked a few things maybe in your day. And let me know if you do have any questions, and book in that call so that you can grab one of those spots for that 45-minute special call with me. And we'll go through what it is specifically that you might need, and start to give some strategy around the resources that you can start to implement, so that you're working on not only your physical health, but your mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic well-being as well. So have an amazing day, and thank you so much. Again, Angela from the Joy Hut here, and I'm here if you need anything, and just reach out at any time. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.